living in these modern days again. Modern day Indian behave like slaves again. Sometimes I wish we could bring it back to way back when, like 1857, make them fists raise again. Delhi Sultanate alongside Bunt, on the rhythm and I get militant. How long am I keep my people ignorant? Can you see corruption around?
My artist's name is Delhi Sultanate. So the Delhi Sultanate was one of the first kind of empires you had in India. And a lot of kind of Hindu, Muslim cultural traditions that we have today started at that time. So that's my artist name. And I'm involved in a couple of projects. I have a live band called Scavengers, live music, you know, like trombone, horns, play ska music, reggae music, rocksteady music. We do live shows. And then I run a trust called Word Sound Power. And what we do is we travel to different areas in India with a producer called Chris McGuinness, and try and connect with local traditions that sing revolutionary songs, that have made a choice to use music to talk about what's happening in their area and in the country at large. Because I come from a reggae music background, so I felt the way for us to represent that in India in a way that has meaning is to link with other traditions that share that orientation towards music, subversive, revolutionary for the people. Really.
Yeah. So on top to bring in like the international sort of struggle of like the global South community and like connecting with the African.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we're all part of the same colony at one point, and the kind of global forces that we're dealing with now. You know, earlier we were all part of one colony. It was the Queen of England and the East India Company, you know, West Indies Company.
Yeah.
Now, you know, formally we are independent, but now we're run by like 20 companies. You know, and it's become a lot murkier, but we're still linked. You know, struggle is the forces that are kind of that we're up against are global forces.
Yeah, it's true. So like, in terms of your music and like your message, how is it received in India by like the middle class or different communities or like the corporations and?
Well, I think corporations don't particularly like what we do, but as far as how the music is received, depends really. Like Scavengers is very accessible, it's live music, you know, so people generally get down and then still get a sense that you're talking about something. You try and confront people with something. Otherwise, mixed reactions, man. I mean, I would say one thing that we can do is that a lot of things are rendered invisible. Middle class kids, a lot of them don't really know what's happening in the countryside, you know. And also, if you're comfortable, if you don't experience brutality or discrimination on your own body, why would you question things? Why would you question the way society is organized or try and get an understanding of where you fit in that scheme, you know? So, if you're not being discriminated against or brutalized yourself, then what would lead you to question things is culture, or being in an intellectual, in an environment where there's a critical consciousness, you know?
Yeah, especially when the government's spewing stuff against like the Maoists as the biggest internal security threat.
I mean, there's systematic misinformation going on there, and then you have this kind of, you know, la land consumer culture, which puts a sheen and a sugar coat on everything out there. So what we try and do, and I think to a degree we're successful in it, to a degree it's always a struggle, but we try and inject some of those things into a space that otherwise they will be invisible from. So we confront people with it. You know, there's a very violent and very dark side to the kind of economic growth and the kind of development and progress that you see happening. And that's nothing new. You know, in colonial times, there's a very dark and violent underside to all the prosperity and the lifestyle that people were enjoying. It's just that it was exported to the colonies. So you wouldn't see it so much here, you know? I mean, you know, London, Bombay, cities were built with opium smuggling through the slave trade. It's just that it's exported somewhere else. And now, you know, us, like India, Africa, we're industrializing. We're told to industrialize and to develop along, you know, mold ourselves in the same
integrate and all
in the same mold, but we don't have external colonies. We can only colonize ourselves. So that means that our natural resources are being sold off, you know, like tribal people are being brutalized. We're kind of colonizing ourselves, and eventually there's civil wars brewing already. Like there's an armed insurgency. There's hordes of the poor people, are snatching guns from police and from paramilitary and fighting back. So it's palpable, it's no longer invisible, you can sense it in Delhi.
Yeah.
There's a violence beneath the surface.
And it's also seeing how the divide and rule has, how indoctrinated it is into a system. Because even here, like, say, whenever something happens elsewhere, like, say, the British MPs have invited Narendra Modi from Gujarat to come to the UK. And that's problematic itself, considering his whole fascist outlook in Gujarat. And then on top, he's got a backing from Brent, and he's got a backing from like Hindu upper class people in Brent, in North London. So like they're all backing that British MP and inviting him down. But then again, that's some sort of divide and rule tactic between the Muslim and Hindu community who are Indian through in this place. But one thing I was really interested in understanding, and like, how much do you feel like when you make that music with the people in the grassroots and you know, everyone else, like how far do you want your message to reach the actual belly of the beast? So like, how far do you want it to reach the colonized diaspora?
Well, yeah, I mean, ideally, yeah, of course, we want to maximize our reach, and I think one of the things that we hope for is that by using the musical forms that we use, and through the fact that it's bilingual, it becomes accessible to a lot of people and intelligible to a lot of people. So yes, you'll have kids in, ideally you'll have kids in London that then get to hear what are kids in Orissa and in Punjab and in the jungles, what are they saying? What kind of songs are they writing? What kind of sentiments? What kind of worldview are they expressing in their songs? And to me, music is a constructive way of engaging with these things. Even if you're making music that has violent content, it allows people to be confronted with that and maybe ask themselves, okay, why would someone sing that? What's going on? What's the story behind that? So,
and to not just see it as something like good music to just dance to, but to really feel the pain and feel that
yeah, for sure. I mean, I think a lot, like with Scavengers, it's dance music.
Yeah.
And yes, and there is something to be said for bringing people together and energizing people and making people move their bodies in unison, for sure. I think some of the word sound power music is dark,
Yeah.
Depends also where you go. Like the last project we did in Orissa was a very tough project. Like we reached the space at a time when that movement there had been really brutally crushed, People had all kinds of fake cases on them, saying that they were part of the guerrilla movement, which they were not, which means that police can kind of pick you up or kill you without too many questions being asked. So the music reflects that. It's not euphoric music that will make you want to move. But there's different. I mean, so.
It's
Yeah, I
an
guess.
interesting one. Because even like reaching out to like the different marginalised communities in India, like say the Muslims, the Adivasis, the Dalits, and like how overcoming them barriers and like connecting them, and also the same way like how people in Kashmir, like through the occupation and stuff, they need to be connecting with say the Dalits, and say that sort of resistance actually come to hand in hand. But whilst we're living as a person struggling and seeing, I've never been attached to my homeland through like until going through the decolonising process and understanding like the reality of like white supremacy, colonialism, imperialism, and all these things. So
there's a reason. There's a history that brought you to England and made you grow up here.
So, but for me, it's still about wanting to feel connected to my native land and to my people. But at the same time, looking at it from an international perspective, which I think is really beautiful about your music. Because, you allow, like, say, with the Bant project, you allow, the man Bant Singh who sing in Punjabi, and then you'll have yourself bringing like the reggae vibe and all the rest of it. And he's like connecting the two, but bringing it so in a way it's quite. It's reaching out to two different types of communities and allowing that struggle to be heard from what it is.
That's the idea, really. I mean, we're just trying to build bridges, because for us it's also fun. People are so cut off. I mean, even in India itself, music gave us a chance to go and visit areas which are not on the tourist map and enter villages and go to places. It's a sham. I mean, we're told that it's a democracy. But we're really not free, and a lot of these areas are off limits. Like, we don't know what's happening in the jungles, where all the resources are, where all the money is being made, who's going there, every now and then some news seeps out when when police get killed or when a killing happens, you hear about it. Otherwise, we don't really know what's happening there. And that's where the world's mining companies are kind of zooming in. And it's happening in India and Africa and all over the place. And it's really a global problem, because you know, can the earth sustain, can mankind, humankind sustain living in this manner?
Yeah.
You know?
Because another thing I think is really interesting is to kind of the message you put out towards for people that glamorize, say, the British or glamorize Europe and the rest of the powers who commit these acts of you know, these violent acts and dehumanize indigenous people to such a level that we don't even hear about it, or we're given false information, propaganda, and all the rest of it. So it's kind of like as whites, because you know, a lot of us that are diaspora from different lands, like we can be thinking, oh, you know, we don't feel at home here, you know, how can we be living here and wanting to integrate with these people who colonized us, or all this kind of stuff, and created that situation that we're living in, or the whole reason why we've had this colonization process and like learning to not even like yourself, your community, and like looking to the white man and all these things that goes on. The same way when you travel to another community, people will be excited to meet you because you're from Britain, but it's like, wait a minute, I'm one of you, or that kind of a thing. And I think like overall it's in your opinion, if you lived in England and if you were in my position as like, if you were then a diaspora Indian man, then how would you feel? Where would your place be? Because I think a lot of the time, say, we can read, we can listen to music, we can unite people, but at the same time, when we have this knowledge, how do we then apply it? Like sometimes I just feel, okay, I'm reading and then I'll put my book down, like, oh, I can't read this anymore, because that just makes me really angry.
It's very difficult. To be honest, I don't have answers for you either, because we're struggling with the same questions.
Yeah.
And you know what you're saying about the colonization process, these things are happening everywhere. It's happening in India, you know, like the community we are visiting, like the tribal community we visited. There's a colonization process unfolding and you're seeing it in front of your eyes. You know, where people are being told, okay, your way of life does not have value.
Them type of thing they get out of order. Need no change, not just like the farmer. Black skin, white mask like Botswana. All my real struggle up on the corner. All my real hustle up on the corner. All of my real suffer up on the corner. All of my real struggle up on the corner. 200,000 suicidal farmer.
Okay, so you have different spectrums, you know. Some people riot. You have some people out there picking up guns and fighting, you know. You have, and yeah, I don't really know, you know, I get frustrated making music sometimes.
Yeah, because you just feel that it's your outlet. But at the same time, we need a place to let out that energy.
There's a time for it. And if you do it with integrity, it leads you on to something else. And you have to just keep chipping away and trying to find a way, really, you know. I mean, I must say, the last 2 years for us, trying to do this music and sometimes quite naively showing up in an area and having to learn about it and being confronted with our own limitations has taught us a lot, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like let your situation be a teacher and just keep grinding, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's like the struggle continues because again we've got like neo-colonialism and stuff, so like the whole illusion of being free and independent, or people will celebrate like Independence Day and you're thinking, what are you celebrating? And that kind of...
In a way, things are more straightforward when you're just colonized by a queen or a company. You know, it's easier because you know what you're up against.
Yeah.
And now it's a bit insidious, right? Because supposedly we're all free and so on.
Yeah.
You know, there's this bigger, greater scheme for happiness, which is in place.
No, definitely. So.
What I encourage, I mean, I don't know. For me, I really try and read a lot. I try and, because there's a history of people trying to make sense of what's happening. You know. Our history of colonized people, of people of color trying to cultivate a consciousness, self-esteem, understanding to elevate yourself above your circumstances and be able to, you know, see more than just visible to the bare eyes. So read as much as you can, really, because there's a lot of people out there that, you know, that you can build on. And secondly, try and see as much as you can with your own eyes, especially in India, you know, like.
And through your experience of like grassroots movements, do you have any like kind of advice to like grassroots movements in a place like England or America or that kind of thing, and how like, because a lot of us, we kind of look to like the Black Panther Party and what they did, that sort of resistance, but at the same time, it's like you're trying to make that link, but like to overstand that sort of thing. Like for example, in England we have like a lot of people get racist stop and search, institutional racism, and like people will get killed by the police. Like 2 years ago, Mark Duggan got killed in Tottenham by the police, and but then at the same time you've got that's what happens predominantly to the African community, but like with the Muslim community, people get extradited to end up in Guantanamo, or people are held like for migrant communities, and people are held in detention centres on these borders, and people don't want to know about them, or it's just like looking towards another outlet of what happens. It's like we're all still a part of this, but it's almost when people take on that Uncle Tom sort of like capitalist concept of just wanting to chase that, because a lot of we have to remember, especially with the Indian community and what I've seen, a lot of people just want to make their money.
Of course.
So this is the hardest. Like people just want to give like a bit of money, like, oh, that's good, bro, what you're doing. Here's a bit of money, put that in your pocket, give it to the man that you're working with, and that's cool. My bit's done. So learning to not allow people to just accept charity, but to feel a part of, no, we need to give more, because in any that charity is not going to change anything. Development is a big problem. NGOs are a big problem. So.
Look, I mean, it's clear to a lot of people that we really need a radical transformation of things. What that exactly going to look like, I don't know. And it's true that some of the big problems are that there's a lack of imagination. We can't. At the moment, the system is running not because people really believe in it. Most people on the streets are doubtful about it, don't really feel fulfilled by it, the promises that it makes. So it's not that people are really ideologically invested in it. It's just that you can't think of alternatives. Yeah. It runs on routine.
Yeah. And it's like, we can go, say if we hear something that happens, we can go outside and demonstrate outside an embassy or something, but it's like, like how much changes, especially say when Operation Castle happened with Palestine, what happened in Gaza and stuff. A lot of people went outside the Israeli embassy and shouted, but at the same time, it's kind of when we don't see that change. It's like the consistency of resistance, and but my main reason behind like this thing is to kind of connect more with like Indian diaspora who might not be looking at India, who might feel like it's a nationalist sort of viewpoint to just look at where you're from, but to actually understand that their identity as colonized people and as a people who have gone through a colonization process, and not just like I'm an Indian Muslim woman, so looking at them too, and then learning to not just see myself, I'm just a Muslim woman and only my Muslim brothers and sisters. At the end of the day, I have to connect with colonized people, because like the similar struggle an African man might be going through, and I might be going through that, or some, these different things.
No, I know what you're saying. So I think you have to talk to them.
Yeah.
Questions are raising are ongoing questions. But let's stay in touch. I think keep reading and keep thinking. Because these are questions that are driving all of us. How do you understand how it links to your own lives? Understand the link. And it's important for all of us to talk, and it's important for Maoists to talk, and it's important for Maoists and Gandhians to talk and think strategically. And be open.
कैसे पता चलेगा किसी को? अगर आप बात कैसे फैलेगी? हाँ, अगर आप आए हो जहाँ आए हो, अगर आप जहाँ से कोई बात आगे नहीं पहुँचाओगे तो आगे नहीं जाएगी ना वो।